Today on Retiring Well with Centennial Wealth Advisory, we'll look at what is likely your largest tax liability, your IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, or other qualified retirement plan.
So what we want to do is we want to take a look at the future of your retirement plans. Where are they going? But not from an investment perspective, but from a tax perspective.
Coming up, we'll explain the huge tax exposure of your qualified retirement plan and how you can put some smart tax reduction strategies in place to work in your favor.
So if we know tax rates are probably going to go up, we know there's going to be these huge distributions, why sit back and bury our heads in the sand and just let it happen? Why not do something now?
All of this and more on Retiring Well with Centennial Wealth Advisory, starting right now.
Retiring Well with Centennial Wealth Advisory, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Centennial Wealth Advisory, where we believe your best is yet to come.
Welcome to Retiring Well. I'm your host, Michael Reese, and I'm really excited about this week's show. We are talking about, wait for it, taxes. Oh, doesn't that make you excited? Yeah, well, we're talking about taxes, and we're also going to talk about what is most likely your largest tax liability. And of course, I'm talking about your retirement plans. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at the future of your retirement plans. Where are they going? But not from an investment perspective, but from a tax perspective. I promise you, if you haven't seen this before, this will open up your eyes. Now, before we do that, I want to take a minute, like I do every week, and just share with you why we do this show. You see, I believe that your best is yet to come. I believe the second half of life is all about pursuing activities that provide meaning and fulfillment, significance, all that great stuff. But of course, if you're going to do that, you need to make smart choices with your money. And the problem is that the overwhelming majority of the financial media talks about how to build up a portfolio. They talk about how do you get to the stage of financial independence. Yet I know for most of you, you're sitting there saying, well, wait a minute. I've pretty much gotten to the point of financial independence. And now you need information on how to stay there. In other words, how do you keep that financial independence? How do you protect those assets you've worked so hard for? And maybe take some income. But at the same time, you still want to grow them a little bit. So how do you do that? That's a different ballgame altogether, and that's what this show's all about. All right, we're talking about taxes this week. And it all starts with a wonderful website. If you're not familiar with it, it's called usdebtclock.org. So again, I'll say it, usdebtclock.org. This is a great website because it tells you on one page all kinds of great information about the financial condition of our country. Now, it's also kind of a scary website when you look at the financial condition of our country because, you know, and I have the guys pulled up right now, but in the upper left-hand corner, you see our national debt. And if you look at the number, it's over $19 trillion. $19 trillion. It's the equivalent of about $60,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country. Now, I got to ask you a question. Does every man, woman, and child in this country have $60,000 of cash laying around that they could just give off to the U.S. government and say, here you go, let's pay that debt down this year? No, not really. Not going to happen. I mean, if you're a family of 5, mom, dad, 3 children, that's $300,000. So, as you know, that's not going to happen. Now, in fact, even if it did, imagine what would happen the next day. Imagine everybody paid in their $60,000, paid off the national debt. Imagine that. And then what's going to happen the very next instant? Well, our government's just going to run it right back up again, aren't they? You know, no responsibility on spending. So the thing you need to think about, and the reason I bring this up for you is simply this. This national debt is huge. it's just getting bigger and bigger. We're not even touching the surface of Social Security and Medicare. They're even worse than national debt. But let's not worry about that right now. Just focus on the debt for a minute. As our good folks in Washington keep spending more and more money, what kind of impact do you think that's going to have on tax rates in the future? Now, I'm sure your favorite candidate, your favorite congressman or senator, presidential candidate, I'm sure what you want to hear them say is, yep, we're changing the tax code, we're going to a flat tax, we're going to a simple tax, we're doing something with taxes. I'm sure that's what you want to hear. But let's be realistic together for a minute. Spend some time on this website, usdebtclock.org. And then if you spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, very quickly what you're going to recognize is, you know what? Tax rates are going up in the future. There's really no option, not just on the rich, but on all of us. And that is going to play havoc with your retirement plans, your IRAs, 401ks, etc. So don't go anywhere. Coming up after the break, I'm going to give you a real life example of what that means for all of us. So stay tuned in. All right, folks, I want you to pay attention to me right now. I have a very special offer. If you are one of the first 10 people to call, and our number right here, 512-265-5000. If you're one of the first 10 people to call and you've saved at least $250,000 for your retirement, we will provide for you at no charge, no obligation, your own personalized retirement roadmap. In this roadmap, we help you take a look at where you stand currently with the risks that you're taking with your portfolio, the fees. What are you paying your advisors, both the fees you see and the fees you don't see? What about a retirement income stress test? Will your money last? We also run a tax analysis, a Social Security analysis. This is something you absolutely want. It tells you exactly where you stand with your retirement planning. It's absolutely free, no obligation, but you must be one of the first 10 people to call at 512-265-5000. Call now.
Essential financial strategies for a comfortable retirement. Join the Centennial Wealth Advisory team for an informative and exciting presentation with complimentary gourmet dinner and learn how to protect your assets from market volatility, how to plan your retirement, the best ways to generate lifetime income, how to safeguard your assets from unnecessary taxation, the difference between retirement advisors and Wall Street advisors, why getting a second opinion may be your most important financial decision, and much more. Choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, July 19th or Thursday, July 21st at Gumbo's North in Georgetown. Presentations start at 6:30 p.m. and are free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow, but seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 512-265-5000 or visit send-wealth.com/events to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important presentation, Essential Financial Strategies for a Comfortable Retirement. Call 512-265-5000 today.
So I told you in our last segment that we would go over the future of an IRA. And you might recall we have this gentleman, he's 63 years old, he's got $500,000 in his IRA, and his plan is that he's just going to take money out when he's forced to pull money, his required minimum distribution, and that's going to occur when he turns 70 years of age. So he's been averaging about 6% in this account. And one of the things we want to do is we want to understand the taxable implications of what's going to happen here. Because obviously this is money that's never been taxed. And we want to know, and you're going to want to know this for yourself, what does the future of taxation look like for your IRA, in this case, his IRA. So here we go, $500,000 in IRA. He's 63 years old. The first question we want to know is, let's say he just lets us go. He just lets it be. He doesn't touch it until he's 70 and a half. How much will that IRA be worth? Well, at a 6% rate of return at age 70, it's going to be worth about $750K. $750K. And his required distribution that year is going to be somewhere around RMD 28,000. Something like that. He'll be forced to take out 28K, pay tax on 28K, and so on. Who knows what the tax rates will be in the future? We saw that our national debt is $19 trillion plus and growing. So taxes may be higher. They may be what they are today. We don't know. So I'll just let you imagine what the tax will be on that. In any event, we're imagining here that he's going to live a decent life, and let's say he lives to age 88. That's pretty typical for someone today who's 63 years of age to have another 25 years to live. And by the time he's 88, by the way, this IRA is worth about $850, so age 88, it's worth about $850, somewhere around there, and his required distribution now is about $66,000. And of course, he pays tax on that. Now remember what happens when you have a required distribution with IRAs, it gets a little bigger each year. The first year it's $28,000. The next year might be 30, then 31, 32, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. Now here's the part that's important. On our spreadsheets, we start adding up what all those distributions come to. So we've got 28 in the first year, 30 in the second, 32 in the third, all the way to 66,000 at the end. If you add up this guy's distributions during his lifetime, he's going to be forced to withdraw and pay tax, if you add it all up, on $830,000. So he's going to pay tax on 800 grand on his IRA that's worth 500. Well, you might say that's okay because it's spread out over time and maybe that's all right. But oh yeah, when he dies, let's say he's married or he has children, he leaves this IRA to his family, there's still another 830 left in the IRA. So this is taxable to him. This is taxable to his family, his beneficiaries. Now, if you do some math, what do we learn? Add that up, that's $1.66 million. So on a $500,000 IRA, if this guy does what a lot of people do, and that is they just let it go and you don't take money out until you're forced to when you're 70 and a half, and then you only take out the minimum. If this guy does that plan, if he follows the IRS's default exit strategy, he and his family are going to owe tax on $1.6 million of distributions on an IRA that's worth 500 grand. What do you think the tax is on $1.6 million? I know what the answer is going to be. It's going to be pretty close to $500,000. You don't want to be caught in this trap. All right, folks, I want you to pay attention to me right now. I have a very special offer. If you're one of the first 10 people to call, and our number right here, 512-265-5000. If you're one of the first 10 people to call and you've saved at least $250,000 for your retirement, we will provide for you at no charge, no obligation, your own personalized retirement roadmap. In this roadmap, we help you take a look at where you stand currently with the risks that you're taking with your portfolio, the fees. What are you paying your advisors, both the fees you see and the fees you don't see? What about a retirement income stress test? Will your money last? We also run a tax analysis, a Social Security analysis. This is something you absolutely want. It tells you exactly where you stand with your retirement planning. It's absolutely free, no obligation, but you must be one of the first 10 people to call at 512-265-5000. Call now.
Essential financial strategies for a comfortable retirement. Join the Centennial Wealth Advisory team for an informative and exciting presentation with complimentary gourmet dinner and learn how to protect your assets from market volatility, how to plan your retirement, the best ways to generate lifetime income, how to safeguard your assets from unnecessary taxation, the difference between retirement advisors and Wall Street advisors, why getting a second opinion may be your most important financial decision, and much more. Choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, July 19th or Thursday, July 21st at Gumbo's North in Georgetown. Presentations start at 6:30 p.m. and are free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow, but seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 512-265-5000 or visit send-wealth.com/events to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important presentation, Essential Financial Strategies for a Comfortable Retirement. Call 512-265-5000 today.
Welcome back. In our last segment, we took a look at the future of an IRA. I mean, holy cow, remember this? $500,000 IRA. Guy's 63 years old. He's just reinvesting. He's not going to pull that money out until he's forced to and when he's 70 and a half. But what happens? His $500,000 IRA, which we could also call a $500,000 income tax liability, right? Because that's really what it is. It's all taxable income. If by just sitting there and not doing anything about it, by the time he's 70 and a half, that $500,000 tax liability is now a $750,000 tax liability. And then he starts taking those distributions. Remember what they added up to during his lifetime? $830,000. And meanwhile, if he dies, he leaves another $830,000 to his wife or children inside that IRA. Basically, we saw how you have a $500,000 IRA, and if this guy just does what a lot of you do, and you may be thinking of doing this too, if he just does what everybody else does, he's going to end up seeing, or he and his family will end up seeing the IRS collect tax on $1.66 million of distributions on an IRA that's $500,000 today. So if you do the math, and we don't know what the tax is going to be on that, of course, because we don't know where tax rates are going to go in the future. We can certainly spend time on usdebtclock.org and see they'll probably go up, but we don't know what they're going to be. So here's the question. What do you think the tax is on $1.6 million? I mean, it's probably going to be close to $500,000 on an IRA that's just worth $500,000 today. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to be that guy, right? You don't want to be like that guy. You want to be smart about this. You don't want to sit back and just let these things grow and create these huge, ginormous tax liabilities. What you want to do is you want to take action now while tax rates are still relatively low. So if we know tax rates are probably going to go up, we know there's going to be these huge distributions, why sit back and bury our heads in the sand and just let it happen? Why not do something now? And here's a question for you. Every year, after your taxes are done in April, every year in May and June, do you sit down with your financial advisor? Do you look at your tax return and say, hey, how are we doing? How can we reduce our tax liability this year? What can we do about our IRAs and the future taxation on those IRAs? Can we maybe take some steps today to make the pain later on a lot less? I mean, you know how it goes with the IRS, pay me now or pay me later, and if you pay them later, it's a lot uglier number, right? So when you sit down with your advisor, are you reviewing your tax returns? Or does your advisor say, oh, no, taxes, not my problem. Go talk to your accountant. Well, I got to share something with you. If your advisor is saying go talk to your accountant, you need a better, higher qualified advisor for your retirement right now. You need a stat. Because this is a huge liability. It's a huge problem. So what can you do? I'll give you a great example. You could do a Roth conversion, right? That would be simple enough. You can start doing Roth conversions every year. Take advantage of your tax brackets and do some Roth conversions. Does that mean that every one of you watching the show, you're sitting there right now, you're like, oh, Mike says I should do a Roth conversion. I better rush out and do that right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you sit down with your advisor, you should be talking about that. You should be looking at that as an option. And perhaps for your tax return that makes sense, perhaps not. But here's the thing you want to remember. You got to make sure you're working with fiduciary, because here's the deal. If you do a Roth conversion, you're going to owe some taxes to the IRS. Now, in our last segment today, Banks is going to talk a little bit about that, Banks and IR. But you're going to owe some money to the IRS. And you know what? If you got to give money to the IRS, you know what that means to your advisor? That's money that they don't get to manage and make money on. So be aware that your advisor, it's in their best interest for you not to do a Roth conversion. So just make sure you're dealing with fiduciary there. My point is simply this. This could be an enormous problem. You may be able to save tax, save hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS over your lifetime if you just plan ahead. Make sure you're doing it. All right, folks, I want you to pay attention to me right now. I have a very special offer. If you are one of the first 10 people to call, and our number right here, 512-265-5000. If you're one of the first 10 people to call and you've saved at least $250,000 for your retirement, we will provide for you at no charge, no obligation, your own personalized retirement roadmap. In this roadmap, we help you take a look at where you stand currently with the risks that you're taking with your portfolio, the fees. What are you paying your advisors, both the fees you see and the fees you don't see? What about a retirement income stress test? Will your money last? We also run a tax analysis, a Social Security analysis. This is something you absolutely want. It tells you exactly where you stand with your retirement planning. It's absolutely free, no obligation, but you must be one of the first 10 people to call at 512-265-5000. Call now. Welcome back. We're here to ask Banks a question this week about IRAs, Roth IRAs, and taxes. And well, if you've been watching the show, you can see Puppy Banks here is getting bigger. She's 4 months old now, and I don't know, she's weighing 40, 50 pounds at this point. She's supposed to be, I don't know, 100, maybe 80 to 100 pounds when full grown. We'll see. She's still growing. But in any event, this week we wanted to ask her about Roth IRAs. So Banks, pay attention to us. Well, you know how dogs are. Anyway, the questions we have are, what are Roth IRAs, or specifically, what's the benefit of moving IRA or transitioning IRA money into Roth IRAs? Is that a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Why do people do it? What's positive? What's negative? So the best part about Roth IRAs is that they are tax-free. Once your money is in a Roth IRA, it is tax-free for the rest of your life. And that's a good thing because it's tax-free for you and your use. It's tax-free for your spouse. If you're married, you die, you leave that money to your spouse, it's tax-free for him or her for the rest of their lives. And it even goes to your children or ultimate beneficiaries tax-free. So once it's there, it's tax-free city. Now, the problem is this. How do you go from a regular IRA to a Roth IRA? How does that happen? Well, what you do is you do something called conversion. Now, you don't have to convert your entire IRA. You could have $100,000 in an IRA. You could convert 5,000 of it, 10,000 of it, all of it, whatever amount you want. But the problem is this. when you convert money from an IRA to a Roth, what happens is you pay tax on the amount you converted, just like you took it out of the IRA. So if you have a $100,000 IRA, if you convert 10,000, it's like you took 10,000 out and spent it. So that's how the taxes work. Now, what makes a lot of sense for people, and this should make sense to you, is every year when you're talking to your financial advisor, you should be talking about to what degree you can convert part of your IRA to a Roth. And the reason for that is that if you could do it in stages or in steps, you can often do it at a much cheaper tax rate than if you did it all at once. And what you're doing is you're transitioning money into a tax-free environment for the rest of your life at a reasonable price, at a reasonable tax cost. So this is something that that we do on a regular basis when we visit with people. I know Banks gets really excited when we talk about Roth IRAs. She loves the tax-free nature, of course. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is we often hear people say, well, wait a minute, I get it. I understand moving from an IRA to a Roth, but here's the problem that people have that they struggle with. They're saying, but what if the government changes the tax laws? What if I spend my money, I pay tax to go from IRA to Roth IRA, and now it's supposed to be tax-free, but then the government comes along, what if they change the rules on me, and now I owe taxes again on money I've already paid tax on? I can certainly understand that concern. If you've lived any length of time, the government's really good about changing tax laws. They're really good about saying they won't do something and then they do it. I mean, you know how that goes, and we're all skeptical to some degree, and I think that's healthy. What I would encourage you, though, is to think about it this way. The way the Roth IRA tax laws are written, it's part of law. It's not just some crazy tax code. It's part of the law. If they try to change the law, the only way in which they can really do it is to grandfather. That is to say, all right, you got your money in a Roth IRA. Whatever's in a Roth IRA, you get the old rules, the tax-free rules. But then they would draw a line in the sand and say, from this point forward, so from now on, if you do a Roth IRA, the rules are different. So you really don't have anything to fear on, you put money in a Roth, on the government changing their minds on that because of that grandfathering type of approach. So that is this week Asking Banks.